Welcome back, guys, to a crypto updates and profits. Today, obviously, we're going to speak about what happened, especially in Bitcoin and Ethereum since the last update that we did a week ago. We saw insane increases in Bitcoin over here in the chart. So we basically went from our entry to over 27% in Bitcoin in general, and Ethereum also pumped over 20%, which we took a profit trade in, which we're going to talk about in a second. But let's talk about what is happening with crypto, where we are going. So currently we hit finally after the ETF approval and launch. We went down a little bit, obviously, as you can see over here. So one more time, here was the ETF approval, dropped down into the buying zone. From the buying zone, we activated the sequence right now, which is the black sequence, which started over here. And then finished finally the orange sequence, which is the primary one, the first one that we had on the ETF launch, right? That's the one that we were looking for actually when the ETF launched, and I will zoom in a little bit so you guys can follow me a little bit better. But so when the ETF launched, right, somewhere over here we dropped, and what we wanted to see actually is that we see Bitcoin price reacting in the whole correction level of the smaller orange sequence, this one over here, and finish it right away, right? But what happened after the ETF launch, which we already talked about, it dropped into the primary sequence, which is the black one over here, which you can see. And the primary one, the black one, starts here with the first correction until the first up. Now went back into the whole correction level from there on. As you can see over here, we had even a smaller sequence, which I want to show you out of this buying zone, which is the green one. Now we are in the 30 minutes chart, the green one, this one, which perfectly finished too. And then we saw Bitcoin basically going up for 20% and finishing finally the ETF sequence, which was the one that was open since the ETF launch. So we still see a lot of bullish pressure. I don't really believe that there's a lot of new liquidity that it's coming in, because obviously, yes, we are net profit or net profiting and buying more Bitcoins, especially the biggest ETFs, or sorry, like the biggest, not ETFs, but since the ETF, right, the biggest hedge funds are starting to buy. So we are net profit or making net plus on how many new Bitcoins are bought. But at the same time, yesterday around here at the top, BlackRock started to sell about 6,000 Bitcoins over here, which doesn't really change anything in the market. But obviously these big hedge funds need a lot of liquidity, so they need to move out when there's liquidity. And we are seeing spot liquidity really going up and really being high. So many people are currently in, and that's also why the price is moving. Then obviously the hedge funds on top of that continuing buying Bitcoin and being net profit. Now some of them sold, but I don't truly believe that this is a big move or anything for Bitcoin right now, because it's more like the old volume and more the volume that is already in, not really like new people coming in right now. So if you think that's like a bull run, or if you think we are like going into, crazy $120,000 Bitcoin in the next couple of weeks, then that's not really what it is. But it's still very positive, and also beautiful to see that we now finished this orange sequence over here. So as you can see, price hit C target of the orange sequence, which we finally finished, which was actually the sequence I would have hoped Bitcoin finishing after the ETF launch, which actually did not happen. Price came back. We got a lot of buyers in, which is also really good, because people really saw that we are not going below the $39,000, $40,000 marks, and started to buy and go into the market again and move liquidity in. And now we are currently at 52,809, the newest high since 2 years in Bitcoin. And from here on, we also started to activate a new sequence, which is the black sequence over here, right? So price A basically means our current most important sequence, the black one, and price moved over A. That means our black sequence here, this one, is activated. And when a sequence is activated, we have a way higher probability of market finishing the sequence, as we saw it here in the orange one, right? Price dropped, got an activation over here. You see A. I'm going to zoom in a little bit again. So you saw Bitcoin at the end of the day in the orange sequence, right? Coming here to a higher, activating and coming back into a buying zone, basically destroying the old one, which is a little bit of a bearish kind of approval move. So I was very undecisive and I did not enter Bitcoin. I did enter Ethereum, which we're going to talk about last week. We also talked about that we entered the straight, but we went into the buying zone of the whole correction, which is after the orange sequence. We need to obviously think about the second sequence, which is the black one. And we reacted positively out of there and actually had an activation of the sequence. Okay, so where we are going in Bitcoin right now is that since we activated the black sequence, we have a finished target at 63,000, 64,000, which would be the all-time high, or basically going back and achieving or nearly getting to the all-time high of back then 69,000 per Bitcoin, right? So that's the direction where we're going, into direction of new all-time high, maybe just testing the old high and then hopefully coming back. Why am I saying hopefully coming back? Because what actually happened here is not a stable move at the end of the day. We should have had a correction, right, in Bitcoin back to its old primary levels, which is the old OG sequence, the one that we also talked about last time. And if you want to understand a little bit more, I really recommend you to go back to have like at least 2 updates in, so you understand where we are right now, right? Obviously, this is for the future. We're going to talk about that in a second, which you already said. I would really love to see Bitcoin going to 64. But for the stability's sake that we really need, it would be finally nice to see Bitcoin at least coming back to the 34,000 mark, which is still the whole correction level of the whole up move. So basically this whole move, right, needs to correct, and it would be good. It doesn't need to, but it would be good for more stability to then to go higher prices, to really smash all-time high and then really go higher. Why do we need the stability? Because we obviously want people to buy in on this, and then we have the liquidity to really go up, right? Because obviously if price is lower, more people go in, right? At the end of the day, it's just like the Blash principle, buy low, sell high. And right now, I don't see anyone really going in. We are at an all-time high since 2 years, right? We still probably have enough liquidity to finish the sequence to 64,000, 63,000, right? That would be the target, and then it would be finally nice. So future scenarios for everyone watching would be Bitcoin finishing the sequence 64, then coming back. First correction level would be 72 currently, right? Later on, obviously, we have to move a little bit higher, which we're going to do now. Let's imagine Bitcoin really hits our target. Our re-entry would be around 48. Okay, that would be the first one. Okay, that's scenario number 1. So let's mark this as number 1. Other one we can have is Bitcoin coming back now, correcting, and then going up. Correct. That would be scenario number 2. And scenario number 3, which I finally hope Bitcoin doing it, is like going up and then coming down to the 34, correcting the whole bullish sequence, this whole bullish sequence that we had from the lowest of $14,000, basically, $15,000, right, which was the bearish market low, and from there on really correcting the sequence, building up a little bit stability, and then really going for the smash of the all-time high, and even going higher and finishing the sequence, which we are active in, which is $140,000 for Bitcoin. So there's still enough technical proof and still enough technical power at the end of the day to drive Bitcoin to the price of $115,000, and from there on we will need to see where it goes. Then obviously the fundamentals kick in, since we have the Bitcoin halving in not even 3 months, right? April 2024 around, so another 2-3 months. So this is basically what we're looking for right now. There's nothing really to do besides seeing what Bitcoin does in one of these scenarios, right? Really hitting target and coming back down and then correcting over here, which would be the first one, or going up and coming back down to the original, the first level, right? In the sequences, we always talk about 1, 2, 3. We talk about different, at the end of the day, primary sequence, the first ones, which is like the older ones, right? And the highest that we have here is the blue one, right? And then the secondary one is the black one, which correction level, as you can see here, the black one, then you see the blue one, right? So the primary one, the most important one, is this one, number 1. Second one is number 2. So what we want to see it coming back to number 1 and correcting. They obviously price could but also correct. And number 2, it's up to, obviously the market, and we cannot decide it, but that's what technical analysis gives us, and that's what we have to play with. So for right now, it looks very, very interesting, and we're just going to stay out and see if it finally finished the sequence at 64. Maybe it's going to give us a re-entry, okay, come back down and then up. So that would be a scenario that I'm looking for in the next couple of minutes and 1-2 days over the weekend maybe, and see what really happens. Okay, that's about Bitcoin. Now let's look at Ethereum, because Ethereum at the end of the day is very, very interesting. And I just want to give you one more time the big picture of Bitcoin, where we can land here. And again, target is not activated yet. For that, we need to smash all-time high, and then we can really go and see Bitcoin at the end of the day going technically to $115,000 per Bitcoin, and then even beyond that, right? So that's my target and the logical target that I'm following with the system, okay? When it comes to Ethereum, we took an insanely beautiful trade that we called out in the value channel, right? Value channel is for everyone for free still. I don't know how long it's going to be for free, so check the description and join the value channel on Telegram. That's where I actually shouted out this trade. You can see it, that I called this trade and the entry. So in Ethereum, currently, we hit $2,869 US. We are currently sitting at 2,775 as we are recording, and we did from our entry until highest 30% in profit. I closed out after, or basically my take profit was closed out after 23%, which we took with the X20 leverage, and it was definitely a good one, right? So from there on, what Ethereum actually did is also the same thing with Bitcoin. We have this uncorrected big sequence, okay, which is the first black one, okay? So this, let me go out a little bit. So this very first big move over here from the bottom until now is one sequence, as you can see. That's the primary black sequence over here, which is currently nearly finishing, okay? So as you can see, we are seeing something very, very interesting, and that is that Bitcoin is basically, or Ethereum is basically doing the same thing, just in a smaller scale, okay? And we saw it coming back, correcting over here, started to build this bullish sequence, right? Which finished in C target. So our first internal, or basically our second internal sequence, because the first one is still the big one over here, the black one, which finishes at 2.9, nearly $3,000. And we are nearly hitting that, right? Then we have the secondary one, which we already finished at 2.4, but we're going even higher now and finishing 2.920. That will be the target where Ethereum is very likely going to go, because we are so near to it. There's like nothing really, there's like not a lot of price at the end of the difference that we need to catch up for Ethereum finishing this target, which is 7% actually, not even. First starts here at 5%, okay, and then we finish the target. So from here, same thing. We took our entry. We had this beautiful sequence over here, okay? Now the problem, the same with Ethereum, is that that's a little bit confusing, because that normally doesn't really happen. That's like when the market is very overbought, and then when the market is very overbought and we didn't have any corrections, then we're looking for price dropping and surging way below what a normal correction would be. And in this sense, from now on until recorrection would be 30%, which we could still see. Many times that happened in the past before the bull run really started. We saw a surge up, and then basically before it really happens, it goes down and we see new all-time highs, price drop 30%. And that's probably what we're going to see, because also keep in mind that the ETFs have to be filled, and they have to be filled with a good price. They are not stupid. They don't buy at high prices, right? They're already liquidating a little bit over now. Now we are talking about Ethereum, but the same thing for Bitcoin. And that's the problem, which we also talked about last time, is that this whole sequence finished over here, but never corrected and just built a new sequence, which we are finishing now. So in the whole bullish sequence move over here, we have a secondary sequence, which price is following now. And when price follows a secondary or third or fourth or fifth internal sequence on a smaller scale, then that means we have a lot of buying pressure, and we are building up more and more, because it's not correcting the old sequences. It's always correcting the new sequences, building a new one and correcting this one, pushing it higher and higher and higher. That's the easiest way I can explain. As you can see over here, we are in a big sequence over here at the end of the day. So all of this here is a whole sequence which finishes over here. In that, we don't even correct back to the levels. We just build a new sequence, which is bullish, reacts, builds a new sequence. Now, one thing that is beautiful that we saw in Ethereum, which gave me a little bit, and that's why I said in the last update, we're going to see price dropping now to 20-30%. We really need to. Why? Because we had this beautiful bearish sequence over here. Do you see this on the red one? So price started to build the bearish sequence, activated. Now, the beautiful thing, see, is that the bearish sequence finished in our whole correction level, or basically in our BC, which means that's our re-entry buy, because we still have this black sequence over here activated. As you can see, here's A. We have price going higher than A, which is a very bullish parameter. Then it started to build this bearish, and it finishes perfectly. Price perfectly finishes, right? And how do we define it? Again, obviously with our Fibonacci tool extension, where target price at the end of the day is over here, okay? I moved it a little bit last time, so over here, okay, that's our target, which it did. It perfectly went into our target and also started to react in our bullish correction level, right? Which I'm going to show you again, which is basically this sequence over here, and then we took the BC, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, perfect. And then you can see our buying zone, which is from start of the sequence until now, which is basically this quadrant over here, the black one, right? This one, in between 50% correction and 66.7 correction, we started to react over here, start to build another bullish internal section, or basically sequence, which I want to show you so you see it a little bit better. And obviously this is our trading system and I cannot completely explain it. That's what you learn in our community, but it will still make a lot of sense so you know where price is going, because we are very accurate with the system, as you can see. Now we enter over here, okay? So we come back, we enter over here, and now we see this whole move. It builds up a first bullish sequence, then it builds a second one, a bigger one, and finishes it, right? Over there it goes even higher and higher and overextends, which means we have a lot of power. But that also means we had a beautiful trade with basically zero drawdown. Okay, we entered over here, had a little bit of drawdown, a couple of like 0.%, and from there on we started to build these moves over here and had insane results at the end of the day, right? So this is at the end of the day a 20% trade that we took. And for now, where we're heading in Ethereum, basically same thing with Bitcoin. We are really waiting it to finish the sequence because we are so close to it. So scenario number one would be finish, coming back, and then building up the sequence. What I would see, number one, is it goes up and then really comes back and finally corrects this whole big move, which in Ethereum, again, would be around 37%, finally builds up the stability to really go into the direction of our target, which would be now finishing the 2.9, let's say 3,000-ish. And then we still have, obviously, the big target open, which is Ethereum at 8,600 and, $8,600, $10,000 would be a good mark. Somewhere in between here, C target, which at the end of the day would be new all-time high, hitting and crushing the 4,800 mark, and then really going into that direction, which we obviously will probably not just like go like this, right, and just go up to the 10K, but we will like see these corrections and then it come up, right? And these corrections, obviously, we're gonna trade. But for now on, it would be too risky to do anything. We are overbought, so we are too high in all of the markets. And it's very interesting to see because most people that I talk to, and even myself, and I said it in the last update, I was very convinced that we finally see this bearish move coming in. But I also told you in the last one, even though I think that my system told me to buy and gave me a clean entry, and that's what I did. And that's why it's so important to have a system where you don't justify to enter a market emotionally or fundamentally only, but technically, which I did, and we profited 20% and the whole community. And that's so important about having a trading system. Now, our next target for at the end of the day, Ethereum would be the BC correction level, which is somewhere at 2548. Okay, that will be our re-entry. But for that, we'll definitely do another update when we are going into direction. So be very, very smart about, at the end of the day, not doing anything right now. Make sure that you, at the end of the day, I think you can obviously subscribe to the channel, but there's like a bell where you can see when there's a new video coming, because I'm definitely gonna do a video for the new entry here on Ethereum, because Ethereum is just like beautifully running, caught a very good trade, and now we are just waiting. At the end of the day, same thing here, we still have this big sequence uncorrected, which means price could drop to back to 1.7, 1.9K if we finish at the end of the day our whole sequence, and we have to Bitcoin, the prices, Ethereum price is moving so fast, I have to adapt it here again to the newest price. So re-entry would be over here at 1.977. Okay, so 2K mark, which again would be something like this, it coming back and then correcting and then really pumping it up, right? That's what we want to see, because it's beautiful, and not only because it's beautiful, because it's very much needed for the stability for the market. We cannot just have a market that goes up. Anyways, crypto is changing way more and being more like going sideways, consolidation zones, and then really pushing again, and then sideways, and then pushing again, right? It's moving more to like a trading market. So it's not like back then where you just buy in and it just goes up all the time, but it's really like correcting and like building these bearish structures again, taking people out of their stop loss in a buy, and then really going up again. Since like the big players came in, the markets are moving a little bit different. And for me, it's not a difference, because I learned trading in the Forex market, and it's basically the same thing now. So it's being more like a Forex market and more like the commodity markets in general. And it's really, really interesting. But for now, we really could see a recorrection over here of price at the end of the day, or like a re-entry that would be nice to see, which would be here at 2.5. That would be the first one. So same with Bitcoin. We have our first try, which would be this one. We have our second try to re-enter, because either this happens or this happens, right? And that's what we're looking for. Now, again, scenario number 2, which would be price coming back to 2,000, 1.9, would be the optimal move for the stability and for the longevity and health of the market. If not, then we're going to have a bigger correction later, right? Because uncorrected levels lead to the market being unstable and crushing way below normal expectations of a correction of a couple of percent. And then really, at the end of the day, taking a lot of people out of stop losses because they think, oh, we're going to continue to go up, whatever. So it's really important that you get this information. And with that being said, we have Bitcoin, Ethereum. Now let's quickly talk about a couple of other interesting markets in the crypto space. But for now, this sequence is the one that is the most important one in Ethereum and in Bitcoin, or basically what is going to happen. So we are in Bitcoin, Ethereum, waiting for it to finish the sequences and giving us a re-entry. And obviously, I will let you guys know, and we'll see what happens next when it comes to, at the end of the day, Bitcoin, Ethereum. But I truly, truly think right now that Ethereum is running so smoothly that it would be way more interesting to continue to invest into that. Now, obviously, total market cap, and that's also what we talked about. We wanted to see it really finish. So for me, it was like done, right? Because we had this bearish correction level over here. Okay, I'm going to change my red arrow to a yellow one. And I really thought, okay, we're going to see it coming up here and then really starting this this bearish sequence and then coming down to the levels. But it actually, as you can see, completely broke through it, built a new liquidity, and this is the total market cap. So that's all the cryptos. And we are currently sitting at 1.88 trillion US dollars market cap for crypto. And we still, as you can see, finished C target. And before that, now would be beautiful in this area to see finally direction, price coming down and correcting back, which would be a new level that we need to adopt to right now, which would be 1.3 trillion, which would be a price or liquidity in that sense, liquidity decrease from where we are right now of at least 28%. And that's what we again reflect in Bitcoin and Ethereum if we see these corrections. And as you can see, that was the scenarios that we took care of. Either it goes down now or it goes up again, finishes and comes back. So that is the scenario that we're seeing right now. Price going up, then finally, hopefully coming back. And that's what technical analysis gives us. And that's what we're looking for. So our big bets for the future are going to start here. Okay, that doesn't mean that we're going to wait. It really depends on if you're exposed to the markets or not. Obviously, that is my opinion with my system, right? I'm not a financial advisor, and obviously you should always do your own due diligence in your investments, and obviously it's your 100% risk. That is my opinion. That's what I'm doing. But here is going to be very interesting. It's going to be my target to really go in a last time, big time, where we probably will not see the market drop below that, right? In Bitcoin and Ethereum, the 20-30%. So after now, 20-30% correction, we won't see price lower than that ever again. I truly believe that. So that's going to be my big investment now, my big pocket where I go in, where I put USDT all the time on the side. I'm just going to wait until it comes down. In the meanwhile, I'm trading the smaller moves as we did in Ethereum. And that is currently what is the most important that you need to know about Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the whole market cap. When it comes to the other coins, Ripple is not really reacting, not doing anything. Solana went up a little bit, but nothing like really interesting right now when it comes to the altcoins. In the future, we'll focus more on the altcoins because some people ask me, hey, why are we not trading altcoins? Right now, volume is still mainly focused on Bitcoin. As always, the cycles go from Bitcoin to Ethereum, from Ethereum into altcoins. So money will move from Bitcoin then later on into your Ethereum and then into the altcoins. But that is what we are doing right now. One more time summary, Bitcoin, we want to see it finish to 63. If not, we get in re-entry. We re-enter currently at 34. Perfect price zone to rebuy very last time, 34,000. Would then be adopted if we obviously move higher in price, would be going up to 40,000. That also makes sense in terms of psychology and numbers because, big banks and all of, they go more like by wholesale numbers. That's how you say wholesale numbers, 40,000, 45,000, 50,000, like clean numbers, right? That's when the liquidity mostly comes in and they push in. But for now, that is really like what we are focusing on here. And Bitcoin and Ethereum, same thing as a sum up. It's finishing the sequence at 2924, coming back down to finally at $2,000, which you see again, 40,000 Bitcoin, $2,000 in Ethereum is where really last time we go in before we see a big bang. And that could happen in the next 1 or 2 months where Bitcoin really and Ethereum finishes the sequence, builds up bear sequence, maybe becomes a little bit slower. But obviously, we never know. It could just like surge up and continue and then build this correction. But we'll need a correction before it really goes down, before we really see the bull run. I'm very, very sure about that. So that's what I'm betting on. And at the end of the day, we are in the game of at the end of the day in the game of possibilities, right? And we always try to get the highest possibilities with our technical system and our fundamentals. Then also a very last one that is maybe sometimes interesting for you to take into consideration is Dixie. Dixie is the dollar index, which represents the value of the dollar itself. And obviously, as we are trading Bitcoin USDT and Ethereum USDT or USDT and then obviously the crypto, it means how many USDT do we need to get Bitcoin or Ethereum whatsoever. If the Dixie index, right, increases or decreases, it has an effect sometimes on obviously how much dollar do we need. If dollar is less value, then we will need more dollar to get Bitcoin, right? And then price goes up. So we are still in a very strong selling zone for the dollar index. And I truly believe that since it's also an active sequence, we're going to see it go down further. So dollar index, dollar is going to lose its value even more. And from there on, it's going to be very interesting to see how this reacts, because if we have a dollar with less value, it also means we need more dollar to get Bitcoin and Ethereum. So prices will surge. That also positively plays into the cards. Perfect, guys. With that being said, check out this info, send it to anyone that is interested in crypto, and especially with this system, which is a complex system and gives insane entries and exits. It's very complicated for me to explain for the beginner, but hopefully you understood it so far, and you need to understand what the outcomes come. That was important for me. And yeah, at the end of the day, let's get it. See us in the next one.